What's up guys, Houndish here, and today I wanted to jump in and talk about weapons in Year 2 and a few key things to be ready for as we go into the Forsaken expansion, and of course the update that kicks it all off on the 28th of August where we see a whole bunch of the changes for the DLC. So we're going to talk about weapon buffs and time to kill, what's going to be worth trying out initially when we go into this expansion and the update, because of course we are seeing major weapon and sandbox tuning to bring guns and abilities kind of more in line to what we saw in Destiny 1. So we'll talk about all of that stuff, but we'll also talk about changes in economy, new mods, elements that may be worth equipping to weapons right now, and a general guide to how weapons will be changing in the Forsaken expansion. So if you guys do enjoy the video, a rating as always down below is very much appreciated. You can hit subscribe if you want to see a lot more Destiny 2 content, but now let's get into the video. So as I mentioned, we're going to speak about quite a few different weapon changes right here. The first thing I wanted to talk about is time to kill on various different weapon types. So the time to kill in Crucible is generally going to be decreased. So across weapons and abilities, we will see a higher level of lethality in general. This is really going to switch up the weapon kind of meta, that you might call it, that we're going to see in this expansion. And so I want to highlight a few different archetypes, some of the weapons that are going to see the more drastic changes or more noticeable changes in terms of actual time to kill. Bungie have showed us a few different weapons inside of the sandbox. These are going to be some of the weapons with the most notable time to kill change, and those which are definitely going to be worth trying out after August 28th with those sandbox changes. So for the hand cannons, let's talk about the old-fashioned archetype of hand cannon, that is the adaptive frame hand cannon. We also have the better devils in this class, and options like the DFA. Now the awesome thing about these is that we know they are always going to 3-tap. Bungie initially teased this to us with the better devils firing 3 shots and actually killing the Titan in a trailer, and then we have since seen these weapons do the same thing inside of the sandbox stream. This is essentially the core archetype of hand cannon, the one that's closest to the Ice Lunas and things like that from Destiny 1, and they are going to behave very much in the same way with that 3 taps to the head and Guardian down. So of course Old Fashioned is a great example because it's a very solid hand cannon statistically. You've got accurized rounds, increasing range, you have drop mag as well, and importantly you have the perk kill clip. So right now when you proc this, you can get 3-shot kills as opposed to 4-shot kills, but of course this hand cannon will be 3-shot kill all the time, so when you proc that kill clip, you're probably going to be looking at 2-shot kill. Then there is the better devils with the explosive payload, of course, very popular hand cannon. We know that this one is returning in Year 2, and it will be able to get random rolls, so when Forsaken actually comes around, you will be able to get some pretty godly 3-tap better devils. But we should also remember the DFA as well, a very solid strike hand cannon. And that's not to mention the other hand cannons that will come inside of this archetype, which will be new DLC weapons. So it's definitely worth getting some practice in with these, probably going to be the go-to for PvP. In terms of other archetypes, we're not certain if, say, the lightweight frame hand cannons will also 3-tap. They could potentially if you have a very low resilience opponent, but of course we will see different body shot versus crit shot requirements and combinations at the very least. An example of that for high impact frame hand cannons would be that right now, high impact frame hand cannons do 3-tap to the head. That isn't going to change after Forsaken, there will still be a 3-tap, but we will be able to go for 2 body shots and 1 crit, and that's going to get the kill. So definitely worth bearing those in mind, especially with any new ones that might come into the game. I would also strongly recommend that you get a little bit of practice with the Nature of the Beast class of hand cannon. And these are rapid fire frame hand cannons. They're going to be a 4-tap at optimum range inside of Crucible if you get crits. Right now, like I said, you can use weapons like Nature of the Beast right here. There is also the Service Revolver from the Vanguard, but there is going to be the Luna's Howl. This will be the new competitive weapon inside of Season 4. It has the same weapon model as the Lord High Fixer from back in D1, which certainly makes me pretty happy. And this is the one that has the crazy bonus where you get insane amounts of damage if you land 2 crits rapidly, and it essentially means that Luna's Howl, if you're landing all crits, can always 3-tap in the Crucible, and these are rapid firing hand cannons, so they kill very quickly. Also, we should mention that the new exotic Malfeasance is in this archetype as well. So along with those sandbox changes, it might be worth trying these things out. But those will be my main recommendations and things to think about with hand cannons. Now though, let's talk about pulse rifles. We saw an adaptive frame pulse rifle in Bungie's stream very nearly 2-burst to this Guardian. It could be that the Hunter had very low resilience, but what this means regardless is that the adaptive frame pulse rifles are always going to 3-burst. They're going to be very, very good. So inaugural address that we have right now, definitely worth trying out after the update on the 28th. The example we saw from Forsaken is the Bygones pulse rifle. This is a new DLC weapon. I believe it will come from Gambit, and I can assure you guys, having used the weapon, it is absolutely going to be one of the best in the game. We saw some very crispy 3-bursts with it in PvP as well with the stream, and for weapons like inaugural address with kill clip, just think about that. You get a nice 3-burst kill, reload, and you're gonna have 2-burst kills off that damage almost certainly. Moving up to lightweight frame, we've got Nightshade, or any other 450 RPM pulse rifle, almost certainly going to be 3-burst with all crits. So these are gonna have a fantastic time to kill. One archetype that we don't know entirely how it's gonna do would be the high impact frame pulses. Now, if we consider that the adaptive frame pulse nearly 2-bursted a Guardian, it seems very likely that high impact pulses, things like Relentless from Trials of the Nine, are going to be capable of 2 bursts that could be resilience dependent, but if they are, they definitely have a very significant chance to become dominant, especially if there's a good new example of one of these weapons in Forsaken that can roll with some really great bonuses. So they are worth trying out. Also, previously, we've seen high-impact pulse rifle changes affect the Vigilance Wing directly, and if there is a damage change there whatsoever, it's probably going to mean that Vigilance will have a very good chance of consistent 2-burst kills in the Crucible, so bear that in mind as well. Now though, let's talk about scout rifles a little bit. I'd love to talk about the Mida multi-tool archetype, so 200 round per minute scouts, who also have things like Purpose, which was the legendary one from Trials. These are immensely likely to return to a 4-tap in Crucible, as opposed to the 5-tap that you need right now, and that is essentially D1 value, so the Mida multi-tool will literally be the same time to kill, the same thing that we had in Destiny 1. That is unless there is some unusual exception to how they're balancing all of the weapons here. This is based on what we're seeing across the board, and if so, I think we'll definitely see these become a little bit more prevalent. Of course, they are very solid already, so don't sleep on the Mida or the 200 round scouts. What about high impact frame scout rifles? These things are just kind of so off the radar in general. You do see a little bit of use of things like the Jade Rabbit, but according to what we're seeing with time to kill, it tells us that these are going to be a consistent 3-tap inside of Crucible. That is, once again, unless there is some exception to the archetype. So weapons like Polaris Lance consistently 3-tapping, Jade Rabbit consistently 3-tapping, and then you do have some legendary examples as well, things like the Motion to Compel, which is the Trial Scout in the high impact frame archetype. This has Kill Clip, which is probably going to mean with that proc you'll be getting 2-tap kills with a scout. Pretty filthy stuff. Bungie also showed off that rapid fire frame scout rifles will be a 5-shot kill. So if you can land all headshots with one of these scouts, they're going to be stinking good. The example they showed us is actually the scout rifle, which comes from the Blind Duel, I believe, in the Dreaming City. Don't think that one is full auto. I did use it in one of the Gambit captures, and so also not being full auto, that one I think could be pretty nasty. So those are the core kind of archetype changes, which are a bit easier to call out and talk about. But what about sidearms and SMGs? Are they gonna go away in this new meta? Well, there's no reason to believe that, with the exception of the changes to slots. So of course we'll have an increase in prominent shotguns, fusion rifles. That's going to mix up the value of weapons like sidearms and SMGs. Of course, rushing with a Last Hope or Anti-OP is definitely going to be a different type of dynamic now, because you're going to be countered by close range one-shot weapons much more often. So engagement distance and finding your feet in this new close range type of engagement is definitely going to be interesting. We do, however, expect weapons like Anti-OP or Last Hope, the other archetypes of sidearms, and SMG, they're absolutely going to move up in power, and that lethality is going to increase a lot. Just imagine a faster killing Anti-OP or a consistent 3-burst Last Hope. How all of that interacts with the new weapon system, I think, is something that we're going to have to kind of sit back and watch play out a little bit. And auto rifles is kind of an interesting one as well. They're kind of likely to at least be about as prominent as they are right now. They're not going to be bad. We're seeing high flinch, high damage, semi-automatic weapons, rifles, hand cannons, and things like that as well kind of be the dominant, and that's in the meta that we're seeing right now. So I don't really know how that will change, but of course auto rifles are going to move as well. Bungie showed off this auto, the Ether Doctor with high impact reserves. It is a 600 round per minute auto, and you can see that we're getting 21 a crit right there. So it absolutely does shred. It's just a little bit more difficult to see how that will interact with other elements in the game. But of course, with all of the year 2 weapons, we will be able to put year 2 mods on them, and these have some very potent capabilities, things like increasing the aim assist, increasing in-air accuracy. We've seen a few different variants of mods, and Bungie said that there are other ones we're likely to see when the expansion drops as well, so that's going to be really interesting, and I think along with the Masterwork system, this is going to influence how weapons perform quite a lot. I think weapon performance in general is going to increase, you know, because we're going to have those options. I'm increasing the aim assist of my weapon, I'm maxing out its range, I'm maxing out stability. These options are going to be back in the game. On the subject of mods though, the mods that we have right now will become obsolete. They will stop working. They will stay slotted in certain pieces of gear, weapons and armor, but they're not actually going to do anything. You don't have to wait until Forsaken to break down the mods. Bungie have now confirmed that there isn't a new material or anything like that that you get when you delete mods, so you can collect current mod components and then actually use them with Banshee later on to get new mods. Of course, elements on weapons are changing, so elements are no longer going to be applied with mods, they'll actually be fixed to the weapons. Certain weapons that we have right now, we can mod to actually give them a certain element, and they will keep that element even after the mod goes away. And we have one list, and that is the current default elements for all of the weapons that can kind of give us an indication of what is going to happen. I'm going to link a full list down below, but to give some good examples, here we have Manananan. The default for that in the game right now is Void. We don't know if that is going to change with Forsaken. Bungie haven't given us that information, but assuming that this is going to be correct, which is the most likely thing that we have right now, you may decide that you want a solar Manananan, and so if you apply that element to the weapon right now, you will be able to keep the solar Manananan. Other examples would be that main ingredient by default is Arc, the Ikelos SMG is Arc, and the other Ikelos weapons will be locked to Solar, so the SMG is the only one you're going to actually have the option to influence right now. Uriel's Gift and Positive Outlook are Arc and then Void respectively, and like I said, this is based on the current defaults for these weapons, so any new drops of Positive Outlook that you get are likely to always be Void, essentially. So if you want to get a different version, if you want to make that Solar and lock it in now, I'll drop a list down below so that you can check up on any of your favorite weapons that you may want to have a specific element of. Also, another quick shout, with some of the slots actually changing, try and have a few slots free on each character, some space in the vault, and a clear postmaster. This will ensure that all of the weapons can move around while your character is offline and Bungie do the update, without anything trying to move into a full slot, getting bounced to the postmaster, potentially getting bounced into a full postmaster, and then potentially getting lost. As long as you've got free slots on the character and in the postmaster, you're going to be alright. For now though guys, that's pretty much a breakdown of the core changes that we'll see to weapons. Of course, everything Forsaken is likely to be quite a bit better. We've got random rolls, a new much more powerful Masterwork system, and a vastly improved mod system as well. However, with the archetypes we've spoken about, some of the things to bear in mind, it definitely gives us a starting point. So let me know your thoughts down below, any weapons you want to try out. So let me know your thoughts below, but if you have enjoyed the video guys, as I mentioned, a like super helps me out right here. I appreciate all of the support you've shown me. If you're new to the channel and you want to see a lot more D2 and Forsaken content going forward, I post pretty much everything you want to know about the game right here on the channel. So feel free to get locked in, hit that notification bell as well, that way you won't miss out on any content. For now though, I very much appreciate you guys tuning in, and whatever you get up to, I hope you have an awesome day.